What is happening? Good morning.
Good morning. How are ya?
I'm wonderful. Got my little coffee and coaching
Love
rolling
it.
here. Yeah, you know me. Got the pumpkin spice flowing. So
Ooh,
yeah.
already? I
Uh,
said fall can start after my birthday, so it was the other day. We can go into fall mode now, I guess.
now listen. There's never a bad time for pumpkin spice. So
Right. True.
unapologetically, I'm a pumpkin spice fan. Like, hey, listen, throw it out there. Well,
Love it.
so good to have you back on, and I'm really excited about the format. And you know, were you on one of the original Coffee and Coaching guests? Shoot, I can't remember.
Oh,
You've been on so many episodes, but the original Coffee and Coaching was really kind of what the agent to CEO conversations have turned into, and I really wanted to bring back this series and really put it into a format that those of you that have been in mastermind and been to obviously any of our events, kitchen table, are familiar with the hot seat format. And so I was really excited about got a little bit of a inspiration going through some Dan Kennedy stuff, and he was just talking about some of the tremendous marketers that really helped kind of pave the way. But they would do a lot of demonstrations, and I mean, in fact, in some of their marketing events, Andrea, where you just showed up and it was hot seat for 2 days. You got up on stage and you took the you took the plunge of being vulnerable and you know putting all of your stuff out on the table for a whole room of strangers to see, but also to get feedback and get coached through it. And I was like, man, I love that, right? Because I love the hot seat format. I love being
yeah.
able to go through it. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's jump back in. So we had Robin on, we've had Sam on. Obviously, thank you for committing and jumping in with us this morning. We've got a whole stack lineup to continue to run with the coffee and coaching series. So you ready to jump
I
in?
I am. I love it. I love it. The hot seat is always like one of my favorite things at kitchen table. Like it's just cool to see, like you said, everyone gets super vulnerable, talk about where they came from, where they're at, where they're going, and what's stopping them. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in. So, we love to kick things off, get a little bit of kind of the origin story for you, kind of day in the life, how things are now, and more importantly, where is the compass set to, right? Where's the destination? Where are we working towards? So, give us a little bit of context. Give us a little bit of story.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, where should I start? So my background, I went to school for marketing. And I actually started, even in college, I thought I was going to be a nurse, lasted 2 weeks in anatomy. And I called my dad. I'm like, yeah, this is not it. I'm going into marketing. But, that was the time in the economy where he's like, absolutely not. You're not going into business. Like, what is marketing basically?
Yeah.
So, I stuck it out. I did it. I worked in somewhat corporate franchise marketing for a while for Harley Davidson. Had a sweet job. Got to do all the cool things on motorcycles and market motorcycles. Like, what more fun could it be? But I knew that once I started, growing up, and it was just like, this is not what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I worked away my 20s. It ruined a lot of relationships, with friends, with family, with, my significant other at the time. It was just like I was working just to stack the money in the bank account, but I was only 23 years old and I wasn't living my life. So I had the thought, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get into real estate, not knowing what I was doing. So signed up for classes, had the opportunity to take on a marketing position within the real estate world. So did that for about a year before getting licensed myself. Ran the marketing director position for a big team up here in Cleveland. Stuck around for that, and then was given the opportunity to take over that team.
Yeah.
So obviously, still kind of young in the business. I'm like, this sounds like a great opportunity. This is exactly what I want, what, everyone's goal is, right? You want to have a big team. So I did that, brought in a business partner. We ran the team for a little while. And then I was just completely, it completely took the wind out of my sails. I was in that full team lead position with less than 2 years of real estate under my belt. So it was like I had 20 agents counting on me, looking for guidance. And it was like, I'm still new to the business myself. So on top of that, we had structured our team at the time so that our agents were making more money so that nobody ever left our team. But when you have 20 agents on your team, your phone's nonstop ringing and you don't have time to sell yourself. So I hit a breaking point where I'm like, I am struggling, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, all the things, because I was just so burnt out from this team. And then my business partner and I's kind of directions went in different directions, different focuses. So it was, I found a lot of it being put on my shoulders where I'm like, finally just someone take this team from me. So I like to say relinquished that. I promoted myself to a solo
You freed up
agent.
your own future.
Exactly. Yeah. So I knew, and like even when I was in the marketing role, I took my expertise that I had from, going to school and my time in marketing, to obviously pour into the agents even before I was the team lead. And I would sit back and I'm like, God, I'm doing all of this and nobody's taking advantage of it. Or we're generating all these leads, but the leads were never good enough. And I think in my first year of real estate, I closed 11 of those leads myself. I'm like, I'm not doing this for me, but nobody else is taking them. So I'll take them. So that's when I really kind of had a realization of like, I could just pour all of this time and energy into my own marketing, and go solo. So that's what I did most recently. Again, relinquished myself from the team, went solo, and I'm still rocking solo. I have a transaction coordinator that saves my life. But other than that, it's really just me, and that's kind of where I'm at now. Leaned into my marketing expertise again over this year. Now in February will be my first full year as a completely solo agent. And already year to date, I've doubled my units in sales and my volume is actually 5 times higher than it was in this time last year. I just checked. Five times with double the units. So I had this like lofty goal of how many units I wanted to sell this year. And then I looked at my numbers. I'm like, well, my average price point went up so much. Like I am perfectly fine with selling less units and making more money. So that's kind of where we stand now, just rock and rolling. And, obviously I have my bottleneck still that I'm excited to go through, and, see what the rest of this year is going to look like in the future of my business.
What's the future, right? We're at a pretty cool spot to where, we like to work obviously in 90-day cycles. We pay attention to the next 12 months just to make sure we're on the right path. And then, kind of that mile marker, the next mile marker is that 3-year mark, right? So it's far enough out to where there's still a lot of uncertainty, but it's close enough to where you can start to visualize it. And that's kind of where we come in with the 3-year picture. And you think about the time and space we're in, that's end of the decade, right? You can say, we're roughly 3 years and 4 months or so away from, going into, 2030. So you can have some fun with, hey, Andrea, where do you guys want to be by the end of the decade? Where is that North Star pointed? And obviously then you have the 10, 15, 20 year, marks,
Sure.
way out into the distance, but it's that it's you and I've talked about it. It's like, remember the compass was invented before the clock. It's more important to set the direction. Yeah. And then, we say, hey, this is where we want to be in 3, this is 5 and 10. And then it's the old adage, right? Like we overestimate what we can do in 12 months and we underestimate what we can do in the next 10 years. But you have to have that North Star. So for you, what is that North Star?
So I think with the 3-year North Star, it's, I've built this sustainable business to a degree. I think we'll get into that with using the word sustainable, but I've built this business that I've created, and I've shifted my focus from, working with everyone to really niching down, not only geographically, but also my ideal client is the seller or the move up buyer. So, you have a house to sell and buy at the same time. So that's what I really want to continue to always focus on and shift away. I just actually recently, like 4 buyers came out of the woodwork and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't worked with like a solo buyer in like at least 6 months. So that my superpower is listings. So that's what I want to strictly focus my business on and continue that. But I think with getting to that North Star of, what that end goal is in 3 years, it would be to obviously have a continually growing business, but also bringing in agents who I can leverage to take, those buyers, create a system that's going to allow me to not always be that person that has to be doing everything in my business. And that's somewhat what I'm struggling with a little bit right now, is really solidifying what that system and process looks like. Because, I have to, and I always anticipate always being on listing appointments and, always running the marketing for my listings and my business itself. But building that organization around me that I can then help other agents grow their business by giving them, things that I don't want to handle or I can't handle. So yeah, I think just like the continual growth, the year over year growth. I don't know, what exactly that number looks like, because I don't think I was fully anticipating, a 5-time increase in my business this year. So I don't know exactly what that number looks like, but I know what the freedom looks like, because, the burnout, the time away from family, that's not going to be forever. We want to expand our family, and we want to, I don't want to be constantly pulled. So don't always want to be that bottleneck in my own business.
Got it. I love it. So as we kind of, shift into kind of the next focus, the next segment of kind of the hot seat format, right? So it's origin story, current reality, into the future. And then the second segment is what's working, right? What's working well for you right now in the business that you're like, okay, I can actually put a finger on this. I know this is working. And I know if I, continue to do more of this, it's going to continue to produce this result. What is working the best for you right now?
What's working the best for me is social media, hands down. That is what I attribute a lot of my growth to this year. Not only cold outreach of people coming in, but just constantly nurturing those people that have been in my circle for a long time. And that's where I have the conflict in my mind. Like, I feel like I've been telling myself for a while that like my consistency is what has been somewhat of a bottleneck to me, because I'm like, I'm not consistently, I have this CRM that I'm not diving into, and I'm not time blocking. I'm not consistently doing this outreach and all of that. But when I kind of really like dove into thinking about it, I'm like, maybe it's more of a capacity thing where, I can't, when I have 10 transactions going on at the same time, the last thing I'm thinking about is jumping into a CRM and trying to sell myself to these strangers who are in my database. And it's also like kind of like a mental thing. Like, I don't want to have to sell myself when all of this business has come so naturally and so easily for me, just based on my social media and marketing strategy thus far.
Can you get into some specifics with the social that's working, right? Like I definitely feel that's your superpower, just knowing you as well as I do. Definitely one of the superpowers is the, the social media marketing side of things. But is there a methodology? Is there something that you always keep in mind when you're thinking about your ICP and your social media content?
Yeah, probably about 1.5 years ago, I completely revamped my social media. Like I mentioned earlier, like rather than talking to everyone or just like throwing out content, I sit down and I strategically create posts now, and I've niched down to exactly who I want to be working with. So, like I said, ideal client is the move up buyer. They maybe have their first home, they're having more kids, they need to move up into a bigger house and sell their other home. So, and that's within the Medina County area. So I knew that like when I niched down, I couldn't only focus on the city that I live in. The turnover rate is less than 2%. We have like less than 3,500 people total that live in this city. So I'm like, all right, let's expand it and just focus on the entire county. And people get afraid of niching down because they think that it's going to exclude all other people. And it's truly not, but it's going to bring in more of who you actually want to work with. So with niching down and focusing, not only does that feed your algorithm and it makes you more searchable and findable when people are looking. I also did a lot of research, like not a lot of people move to Cleveland, Ohio. It's just is what it is. But then when I dug deeper, we do notice an increase of people moving from Cuyahoga County or from the Cleveland area down to the Medina County and Medina area because it's just a slower pace of life. It's not big city, stuff like that. Taxes are lower, all the things. So I was like, okay, this is a good focus because people could be searching moving to Medina. And so that was, really.
Do you think they're searching like Medina, or are they searching, school districts? Are they searching safety? Are they searching lower tax rates? Like, is there a specific search that's triggering it? Or is it just like, hey, we heard Medina is the place to live. This is where we need to be looking.
I think it's a combination. The schools are tricky because there's, like a lot of the private schools that like kids go to for athletics and stuff like that are in the Cleveland, like metro area. But some of the top ranked schools in our area are on the far east side. So, or they're, of course they're all ranked. So that one is tricky. I think the biggest driving factor is just lifestyle. And that kind of goes to also who I want to work with, like the people who want a slower lifestyle, want maybe more land. And again, towards the county, it is lower taxes because you don't pay city taxes in Medina. And it's just, everything is getting so congested up north that people are moving further south. So that's, I would say more so it's just like the county itself.
Got it. What else for you on, the social media, niching down, really paying attention, speaking more so on social? You mentioned something about consistency being a struggle. How are you fighting through that to maintain that level of consistency?
When I redid all of my social media strategy, I know like on Mondays, this is what I post. On Tuesdays, is my authority post. Wednesday is a local post. Thursday is a listing post. So I have just truly started videotaping everywhere I go. It doesn't matter if it's a house, if it's a coffee shop, whatever it is. I just take videos of everything. So I always know that I'm going to have some sort of content. I also, when I have downtime, I just go through and I create a bunch of drafts. That way, when I need something to post, I have 20 drafts sitting in my Instagram. And on the strategy with it all,
I love that idea. Hold on just real quick. I loved what you just said right there. I want to amplify that, because what I heard is that when you're in the moment, when you have that creative, you capitalize on it and you just bank it for when you need to sit down and need to start, putting it out, right? Like go through the whole process. But you catch yourself in the moment, you're going through, you're in there, you see a new coffee shop, boom, you come up with the idea, you capture it, and then you shelf it for when you're ready to create it and put it out. Is that right?
Exactly. Because there's never, I've been there so many times where I'm like, shoot, I need something to post. And it's like no other time do you have more of a mental block than when you're like forced to post something. Yeah. So now it's
100%. 100%. That is the worst. A gun against head. You're like, I got to get something out. And you're like, it's not there.
And the
drawing
thing
blanks.
too is exactly. Like towards the strategy, and I'll just point on this really quick, is like I shifted everything to speak exactly to, again, I'm not trying to drive a bunch of buyers into my business. I want the sellers. So there's so many times where I've seen posts that I'm like, oh, I really like that post. But then as I'm making it, I'm like, wait, this is so buyer focused. So then I throw it into ChatGPT or Claude or something. I'm like, hey, I love this post, but make it seller focused. And then you just change the verbiage. I caught myself doing it last night, like with this trend that's going on. I'm like, all right, I want to do this. And ChatGPT gave me a bunch of ideas. I'm like, nope, shift all this to seller focused. So that too is bringing, I mean, I just had someone reach out. I went to college with her, have not spoken to her literally since probably our freshman year of college. So 15 years ago. And she messaged me and she said, hey, my husband and I want to see this house. And I told my husband months ago, when we're ready to sell our house, we have to use you because we've been connected on Instagram and she sees all my stuff and I'm constantly putting stuff out there. But it's funny because the question does sometimes become like, we see this house with you? Because I put out so much seller focus and it's like, of course I could show you this $700,000 house and sell your $500,000 house. So shifting that strategy, like I said, really talking to exactly who you want to be working with has completely shifted all of it. And the other thing I'll say too about social media, like sometimes when you just have to put stuff out there, getting like the local stuff, like the videotaping the coffee shops or whatever other local things, is not overthinking it. I put out a video. We were on our way home from our cabin up in New York, and I'm like, I gotta post something on social media today. I went through my videos on my phone that have just like been random videos, like me on a walk or us on the motorcycle, whatever it is, and I put a hook on the screen and it went viral. I had to shut the comments off because people were like literally attacking me. But at this time, I think there's like 200,000 views on it. So now I'm that Medina authority when people search it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so awesome my big nugget there was anytime you have inspiration, because you don't know when it's coming, and it's not going to come when you want it to come. So capture anything that you see in the moment when you have the creativeness, have it banked. And then when you're ready to kind of lay out the content, then start to put it out. But my get there that you shared that is just massive is that sometimes we get so caught up, we love it and we just want to get it out, but we're like, oh, hold up. Is this speaking to the person that I want to be speaking to? Or am I trying to speak to everybody? Because when you speak to everybody, you speak to no one.
Right.
And you've nailed that. That, like, folks listening in, like, if you are not super intentional and disciplined to always come back, and I think that's the beauty with AI is like, hey, run this through, make sure I'm speaking to our ICP. If not, change it up, give me some variations on and a couple options of language to make sure that this post, this content, this idea is speaking to our ICP.
Yeah. Right.
So good.
Nailed it.
That's so good. That's so good. All right, let's shift to the problem, right?
Yeah.
And the situation. And so, we operate under theory of constraints, and the theory of constraints comes from a kind of a concept from Eli Goldratt in the book called The Goal, which we used to recommend to everybody, must read. However, there is a very, very well done condensed version of theory of constraints that lives in Dan Heath's book called Reset. There's like 16, 17 pages, the best condensed version of theory of constraints that you can ever read. You don't have to go listen to The Fable of the Goal by Eli Goldratt that for some folks, they can't get through it. It's so tough. But now you have a 16-page condensed version on theory of constraints. And basically what the whole theory talks about is that there is always a constraint somewhere in our business and in our life. And when you can kind of lay things out in a sequence, right? And it's the whole, like my whole belief that there's a code in a sequence to unlock anything in your life. You just have to get the right combination. And sometimes that combination stuck a little bit. So we need to remove that stickiness, that bottleneck, to get the right code in place so that it unlocks the output that we're looking for. So for you right now, and we typically have a couple, check engine lights on throughout the whole thing. What is the biggest like rock in your shoe, the biggest challenge, the biggest bottleneck for you in your business right now?
I love that you said we have to like control, like really like figure it out, because that kind of what I touched on before. And like as I really started to like go down this hole and like go through our KT book and all that and like figure out what is my bottleneck, it takes it from a level of broad, like, yeah, this is my big problem right now, to really granular of like, okay, wait, maybe it's not exactly that. Maybe it's something deeper than that. And I think right now where I'm seeing my struggle or bottleneck, or like, okay, how do I continue doing all of this, as we all know, we see the ebbs and flows in the real estate industry, from month to month or season to season. And then with the shifting market and all of that, I think where my bottleneck has been always is like, okay, how do I create a consistent lead flow? I know when I have appointments set on my calendar, when I'm face to face with someone, when I'm on a listing appointment, 90% of the time I'm going to get the listing. I'm going to get the client. My bottleneck always was, okay, how do I create more of those appointments? I have the contacts. Sometimes I have the the contacts turn into leads, but I'm not setting the appointments. And I think that, you said something at KT last time that really stuck with me. It was like, yeah, based business is great because I have no marketing spend. I mean, I do all of my
Massive
social
margin.
media.
It's the biggest margin. Yeah.
Right. I do all my social media myself outside of my listing videos. I have really very little marketing spend. But then I, bought into a CRM to nurture this massive database that I have. But then I hit that wall of reaching out to these people because I don't, like I said before, like it comes so easily to me that I feel like now if I have to sell myself, I'm like, ugh, like, but at the same time, it's like, okay, that could continue to build my pipeline and create that consistency in the business so that I'm not having 10 transactions at the beginning of July and then, 5 transactions in February or something. And that's where I really started to unpack it, is like, is it a consistency problem? Is it a constraint where I like get the ick to go into that CRM, or is it a capacity problem? Because but I know that everything I'm doing right now is for the next 90 days. So it's like, I don't have the capacity to jump into the CRM on top of knocking that wall down of getting myself to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it consistency? Is it capacity, which brings in, opportunity for leverage, multiple levels there. So I think that's where my biggest constraint bottleneck is right now.
Yeah. So remember, we always want to make sure that the constraint is the constraint that's in relation to what the goal is, right? And sometimes we think it's a constraint, but it's a constraint that aligns to a different goal. So we got to make sure that we're crystal clear on what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And in our business, there's only 3 goals. It's either I want more revenue, I want more profit, or I want more freedom. And what I heard you say earlier is that freedom is the most important thing to you. For you, that's the goal. Okay. So if that's the goal, more freedom of time, more like, listen, I ain't signing up for 55 hours. I ain't signing up for 60 hours a week. I'm good if I can get there in 25 or 30 or 40, right? Just a solid, in their time allocation. But what you said earlier that I absolutely love was you've doubled your units and 5x'd your volume, which means you've really been intentional about doing one thing, and that's focusing in on a higher price point clientele and opportunity, which means a different upper level segment of the market, but also being able to create enough value, because when you create value, that's when money exchanges hands, right? The value you create removes a constraint or a bottleneck or helps somebody achieve what they're wanting to achieve. That's where money exchanges hands. And you look at, the most wealthiest individuals, it's just that they've created more value than anybody else. And so when you look at it, it's like, okay, well, what's the value creation I must create and deliver and capture from my ICP? Can I do it in a higher price point? Does the market allow it? And are the market conditions, and am I creating enough value that I can do the one thing that we have control over in our business? And there's only one thing that all of us have control over in our business, and that's the price point in which we charge. And in tough headwind markets, and listen, like, you're going to win in any market. You're going to win when it's good. You're going to win when it's bad. You're just always going to win. But what's the perception of the client, right? If the client believes, man, it's really hard, nobody's able to sell homes in my neighborhood, but here's Andrea has proof that she can get things sold. One, I see her testimonials on social, I see her talking about it. And then, oh, by the way, my buddy used Andrea and was able to get the home sold faster than the market and for more money. We got to use her, right? And that's where your relationship business is key. Your testimonials are key to be able to leverage those stories to be able to, get through to a person, because our marketing has to join the conversation in their head. It's not the conversation we want them to have. It's the conversation they are having. So that's super, super important. But I don't want you or anybody else to ever lose sight of the goal. And sometimes the goal is, dude, I just want to drive revenue. I understand expenses are going to flow, but we got to crank revenue. Or, hey, we're good. We got consistent revenue. Our expenses are a little bloated. We need to clean some things out, and therefore it's going to give us more profitability. And then that last one, where I heard you're at, is I want more freedom. I want more time. I want to be able to maximize the time I am working. And I love that you went after a higher price point. I mean, the data's there. Also, what it tells me is that you narrowed your focus. You weren't so diluted on everything you were trying to do. You went less and then more, right? You went more of the one thing that's really going to move the needle for you in your business and your life. And that's kind of where you're living. Now, to what you were saying, is it a capacity problem? And if you go make a hire or you go do things to kind of get things off your plate, are you just making things a little more complex? Because that's where we get a mistake, right? Like, we just add complexity to already being, no capacity, and we just set ourselves up for failure. One of the things, and this is just because I know kind of what you're working with and what you're doing, you have to lean on the power of AI and the power of the AI tools that you have available to you. And remember, he who can pay, or she who can pay the most to acquire a customer, always wins. So are you willing to make that investment to capitalize on the return to solve my conversion problem? And that's really the problem you have, is you have a conversion problem. You don't have a contact or a lead problem. You have a conversion problem. And so that's probably where the bottleneck is. But you also have to be sensitive to, well, my objective is to be able to capitalize and get greater returns with less time. How do I do that? And maybe the question you need to ask yourself, Andrea, is not how do I do it? It's who can help me with this.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that and that's been, you said like about your hire. I've been so close to hiring, a VA or someone else to do it. And then things blow up and I'm like, I don't have the time that this person deserves to be trained correctly. Yeah. And then, then it just adds more to my plate as trying to train them. And then when they're not trained properly, that's 100% my fault. And then I'm picking up the pieces and having to do that. So I think that being super intentional with who I bring in already getting a start on that already. But, if I reach capacity and I have these appointments being set, then delegating it to other people and creating that organization. And, for a long time, not for a long time, but like, when I transitioned from team to solo, or like when I was team lead, like I said, like it was a huge financial burden for me personally. So now it's like, okay, I'm rebuilding all this. I have no expenses. So it's like, I'm just like raking it in. And so it's like, it's great. But now it's time to
There's a
turn around
trade-off.
and put
There's a
that back
trade-off.
into my,
Uh-huh.
now, and it's like, okay, but now I don't have any freedom. So it's like this just like vicious cycle. It's like, okay, maybe it's time where I take that and I put it back into the business and I make those hires or get those systems that can help me get to that end goal.
And I think for you, Andrea, and you've demonstrated it, and you said early in the conversation here, you've demonstrated this, is that you're willing to try and touch the hot stove. And if it doesn't work or you don't like it, you're okay with making a pivot. And I think that's just such an awesome trait, but that's a marketing trait. And that's why you are a marketer. And you realize that, right? Listen, guys, I'm a marketer that just happens to sell real estate in Medina County. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm in the Andrea business, and I help homeowners, buyers move up, and help sellers, move to their next, to the next phase of their their life. Right. That's just what I do. But you're a marketer at heart, and you embody that trait of, I don't know, let's test it. Let's see what it is. And if we don't like it, we can always make a change. So
right.
You have that capability. You've already demonstrated it with, trying nursing. That didn't work. You went to Harley. That was great, but it burnt you out. So it wasn't sustainable. Then you made it in. You're like, I don't know. Hey, let's run with this team. You're like, this is not my thing. I got to pivot. I pivot to a solo agent. So you've proven that you're willing to take risks, and you're okay if it doesn't work out to pivot to something else. And a lot of people, their ego won't allow them to do that.
Right.
That doesn't bother you. So you have to utilize what you're okay with in your natural abilities and your superpower. Step in as a marketing, you're willing to test. Let's go this route. If it doesn't work, then it's like, listen, I have proof that I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm not going to give up. So I think it's leaning in on those, softer skills, the intangibles, the mindset, your capability, like your outcome over ego, and being able to continue to navigate those waters to get to your freedom. But I think it's super important. Don't lose sight what's most important. Most important is freedom. Most important is my time. How do I create that leverage? And knowing that I'm going to have to give a little bit of money to buy back my time until my investments and my assets are providing enough revenue that I'm not trading time for dollars.
Love that.
Yeah. You're in a great spot. I think I think for you, it's just remembering who you are and the skill sets and the tools that you bring to the table, and being able to operate without the hesitation and fear, because you don't have it. You shouldn't have it, because you have the ability to navigate and move quickly. And I think just knowing what I know about you and the resources and the things you have, I do think your move is AI. I think your move is, how can I continue to be more efficient without spending more time? And I think for you have to draw a hard line in the sand. Is like, listen, this is it, 35 hours. And if I can't figure it out and hit my income goals in 35 hours, then it's not going to happen right now.
Yeah. And I love what you said the other day on our call, that like the next 90 days, just like head down, go to freaking work. And like, that's where that just like completely like resonated with me, because it's like, okay, once I have some of these transactions start to close out, calm down, we're going to start getting into the colder months here in Cleveland. It's like, that is my whole focus, is like strictly focusing on AI and how I can implement that into my business and fully learn the systems, and, really just start to lean heavy into that, because as much as I love the results I'm getting, I'm not loving the hours that I've had to put in all summer long.
Yeah. And I think if you can give yourself kind of a time frame, a runway with a deadline, then I think you're okay to redline. And it's kind of counterintuitive because the weather, especially up here, in the Northeast, I mean, we're about to get into, like the most beautiful time of the year in the season, and football's kicking off, and it's easy to get distracted with all of the things that are going on. It's really easy to allow that distraction to take you off course and take your foot off the gas. But if you're like, hey, listen, we're locked in for the next 90 days, like it's go time. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and the light at the end of the tunnel is that 90-day horizon, that mark that you get to. And so it's a little bit of a carrot and a stick. And so the most important thing though, is that when you lock in and you're like, hey, listen, I'm locked in, I'm going 90 days straight. I'm probably going to be putting in 10, 12, 15 hours a day for the next 90 days. Then we get to breathe. And so you have to let the people around you know. If they don't know, they're not going to support you, and they're going to cause more friction than good. So you got to make sure when you make these decisions to do things. That's why when we come out of KT, where I was like, okay, well, who are you cascading this down to? Who are you going to communicate and let them know the changes, what you're doing, what's happening? And you have to let that support system around you know what's going on. So like, for example, we're locked in till November the 19th, November the 20th, I go get Zane. We've got Thanksgiving. We're off to Sand Dollar Mastermind. We're into the holiday season. And so I told the team, I'm like, listen, I'm going to stand on you for the next 90, like 91, 92 days when we kick this off. And just know I'm going to message you on Sunday. I'm going to message you on Friday night at 10 o'clock. I'm going to do those things. Yeah. However, you have this week off and you're going to get paid. You have this week off, you're going to get paid. You have this week off and you're going to get paid. So like the risk not the risk and reward, but the carrot and the stick.
Right.
Is that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I think where we get ourselves in trouble is that we don't put that light at the end of the tunnel, right? As kind of, we get to breathe. It's like, I don't know, Andrea, is that light at the end of the tunnel a freight train coming at me, or is that an opportunity to breathe?
Yeah. No, I love it.
It's so good. I love where you're at. I love, the intention. I think the narrowing down. I love catching yourself in the moment. It's like, I got this idea. It's trending. We got to do it. Oh, but is it speaking to my person? No.
Yeah.
How do I do this thing, but speak to my person? That's my biggest get out of the conversation. And then also for you, I think it's just being intentional, breathing a little bit, slowing down, and not losing sight of the goal. And knowing that you have the capabilities and resources to take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of you.
Love it. No, it's super helpful, always reassuring and good to hear. Like, and the reminder of staying focused on the goal, because like I said, it can always change, or like I could feel like my bottlenecks are changing. I think I finally figured out like my happy place of, being on a team, being team lead, now solo, like this is where I want to be, because I know, I mean, if I succeed or fail, it's my fault. So that's really that was the mindset shift I had to have, like going full into real estate and then going solo. It's like, I have to figure this out. I don't really have a choice. I've always been a very independent person that's like, I need to make this shit work. But now it's like, okay, but now then how do I take that to the next level? And how do I start bringing other people in without being back into that leadership role of a team lead, but rather help them build their business and leverage them to grow my business, whether it's people or AI, honestly.
Yeah. I love it. Well, fantastic. How can folks get connected with you? Somebody hears this, it resonates, they want to, connect, pick your brain a little bit, or maybe they have some feedback that they would love to give you. What's the best way to get connected with you?
The best way is Instagram. My Instagram's Hey Andrea Mapel. Mapel is spelled Mapel. That's where obviously you can see a lot of what I'm doing on social media, mostly focused on Instagram, and then connect with me too.
I love it. Awesome. Andrea, you're amazing. Guys, appreciate y'all. Give Andrea some love, give her some feedback, and make sure you guys get connected. Awesome.
Thanks, John.
We'll see you. Thanks.
Bye.